And our next speaker would have been Craig Rosewarne from Wolfpack, but he is now going to be replaced by Bruce Anderson. So Bruce, just a very warm welcome. Unfortunately, I don't have your pic and your bio because I know this was quite late notice that we needed to make the change. So you're more than welcome to briefly introduce yourself, but I'm going to hand over the share to you. So thank you so much, Bruce.
Thank you, Lynn. Just let me get my technology sorted here. I share my screen and my video.
I'll let you know when we can see your screen.
Okay, you should see my screen now.
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, and video is on. You can see me on the video as well?
Yes.
Great, excellent. So I just wanted to say, Prof. Greyling, I think he's already left the scene, but he's doing amazing work. You know, in the cybersecurity field that we in critical thinking, abstract thinking is crucial in the development of youth. And it's something I'm quite passionate about in terms of preparing our youth for the future and the challenges that cybersecurity presents to us. So thank you for that good work. I admire it. It's really, really amazing. A little bit about myself. My name is Bruce Anderson. I've been working in the cybersecurity industry for many years, and mostly in environments which require stringent levels of information security standard adherence. So going through audits on an annual basis, and multiple standards, not just one, and having exposure in Europe and South Africa and other African countries. So I'm delighted to speak to you here today. And what I'll be speaking to you about is the cybersecurity challenges which are presented to us in terms of the threats that are out there, and what we can do about it in terms of just giving you a feeling of this is sharing with you cyber wellness messages, what the threat is, and certainly from a educational schooling perspective, what are the types of threats that we see out there, and to give you some guidance on how to understand them better and what to do if there's a victim that's, somebody's fallen victim to any of these types of scams or crimes. So with that in mind, let's just get straight to it. And I've got a test for you. Let's start off with a test. And this test is, there's a number of balls on the screen. How many colors do you see? That's the question. And if you can just give me some indication in the chat, how many bubbles, how many different colors of bubbles you see, not how many bubbles, how many different colors. And it'll be very interesting to see that. Just give it a quick shot. Don't be too pedantic about it. If you are seeing one color, you are very special. If you are seeing more than one color, single color, not one of them all of them are the same color. They're not different colors. And this is it's an optical illusion. And the point of this exercise is that what you see online in the digital space, in the cyberspace, is not necessarily what is going on in the background. It's so easy to get fooled in the cyberspace because people are very much identities they use. I'm putting that message up there up front because it is so easy to get scammed. So please bear that in mind. What is the cyberspace? Often people want a discussion around, well, you talk about cyber, what's cyberspace? Cyberspace is literally anything where you've got a technology device connected to a network, which can potentially be connected to the internet. So in the simplest terms, cyberspace is all the different devices that are connected to the internet and any people or systems or applications behind those connectivities. So think about it broadly, that is your cyberspace. And again, I've got a my dog's name is Bruce. and my name is Bruce. So who's behind the computer screen? You don't know. And it's very often very difficult to tell. This is a study done in higher education. It was a study done in Sudan. The results of these two graphs are in 2019. The study was published in December 2022, so it's fairly fresh, but the data that they use in these slides are from 2019. The opportunity that we see in the slides, what the data is telling us, is that in Africa, we have 28.2 people per 100 in Africa who have access to the internet, versus Europe, 82 people per 100. So that shows the internet penetration, the reach, the accessibility of the internet in Africa as a whole is very, very low. And that presents a massive opportunity, not only from a development and business and education perspective, but also for skills development in the quest to secure digital identities and the experiences that people have on the internet. The slide on the bottom has a very good view on the acceleration of the internet access. So all the way from 2005, you had 19 million people in Africa as a whole who have access to the internet, versus in 2029, 294 million people have access to the internet. What's interesting about that graph is the acceleration. I'm so super excited to see the next few years and how that's going to look like in terms of the acceleration of internet access. Here's a statistic on the internet access in South Africa. So what we've got here is the digital population in South Africa. These are people who have access and are active users of the internet in South Africa as of January 2023. 43.48 million are active users on the internet. 25.8 million of those are active on social media. Now, these are quite astounding numbers in terms of, if you look at the statistic we've just had. So we are actually right up there in terms of being a digital nation. What this does do is it exposes those 25, not even the 25.8 social media users. It exposes all of those users, the 43.48 million users, to the threats that are on the internet. And we'll go through some of those and the types of common ones we see, and what we feel from an education perspective are very valid, and you should be made aware of them and how they occur, who does them, and what to do to avoid them. Here's an interesting aspect of identities, and as we evolve as humans, our identity perceptions are also evolving, and we can identify with being anything we want to be. And online, that's even easier to do that. And how that's possible is there are applications where you can register and create a digital identity being anything you want to, any sex you want to, you can dress the way you want to, you can look the way you want to, you can sell jewelry online as this virtual person, and you can live your life online. That has pros and cons. It gives you that experience of being an escapist, but it also has some other connotations and habitual behaviors that we need to be concerned about, things like addiction to the internet, and with that comes a lot of social type of problems. We'll get into that a little bit later. Can I have a show of hands? Has anybody ever experienced or had any exposure with Second Life, or they've heard people speaking about Second Life? Just pop it in the chat. I'd like to see that later. But it is an interesting concept, but it just needs to be treated with a little bit of care. When we talk about cybersecurity, we're speaking about people and digital devices which are interacting online And these devices and the virtual identities all interact and perform certain activities. And then there's a lot of bad people out there who want to do something to get to something. And typically what they're after is some kind of asset, whether it's financial asset, virtual currency asset, physical money. It could be just to steal somebody's identity, to perform some other fraudulent activities. It could be to steal information. There's so many different motives for that. But typically what they do, the list of possible attacks that I'm showing you there, some of them you might know about. A very popular one is phishing. And phishing is the most common initial form of attack that threat actors will use when they're wanting to get into somebody's network. And that attack is against you and me. Basically what it does is that it will just attract you. It will trick you into clicking something and giving more information than you should. So that person has a little bit more information, and then they build their information base and slowly break into systems with more information that they gather. Cybersecurity basically is defending everything that we do online, our people, our virtual identities, our devices, the services that we offer, banking services, all kinds of services that are offered on the internet. Cybersecurity is defending those from the constant attack that we have from the threat actors. It is also provides for proactive methods to protect against these types of attacks and to safeguard against them. And the layers in which those proactive methods are arranged is high level, from risk assessments, governance, risk and compliance, to putting in place the protection mechanisms, and all the way down to testing if those controls and protection methods are actually effective. And these are, from an educational perspective, what we are looking for in terms of how do we generate, how do we get a generation coming forward with these types of skills that can protect us going forward. The types of attacks we know of today are, they won't even be spoken about. They'll be just normal things that happen every single day. The threats that are emerging are the ones that are dangerous. We don't even know about them yet. They are so dangerous that they will make what we know now look really silly. Cybersecurity also involves the ongoing search for vulnerabilities in our environment so that we can patch those vulnerabilities and prevent that attack from happening. But it's not something that you can do to just say, okay, we're going to stop this vulnerability, now we can sit back and relax. It's a constant, ongoing effort. And therein lies a huge opportunity for learners and school leavers to come into this field of cybersecurity and learn about how they could be those protectors of our digital identities and assets. So we speak much about assets and what they are. So in this context of this discussion, we're talking about threat actors. A threat actor is basically somebody or a group of people who want to do harm. And in doing so, they are after something. So they might want, that something could be an asset, could be virtual currency, it could be, they want to get access to some codes to get access to physical money. They might just want somebody's identity so they can see what they can do with that. But they also might be after intellectual property, and they might want to abuse somebody's brand. But essentially, there's a body or somebody or an individual who wants to cause harm. They've got a certain motivation, and they use certain tactics to achieve that, their end goal. And from an external perspective, you could have a group of terrorists, you could have an army of hacktivists, it could be an individual, it could be somebody just wanting to get street creds around their capabilities of being a hacker. The key here is that from an information security perspective, there are three pillars of information security. Confidentiality, that being the information should be kept secret for those who only should have access to it. Integrity, has the information been changed? It makes a big difference if your accounting books, if somebody's able to change, either subtract or add 3 zeros at the end of a figure, it makes a huge difference. And then from an availability perspective, where is it available? And there can be massive disruption if a particular service is not available. So those are our core pillars of information security that we protect when and we certainly protect them from attackers. So that's the external view. From an internal view, it's very similar, except your threat actors are very different. Your threat actors are people you know or systems you work with on a day-to-day basis. So an administrator with a high level of permission can do many things to cause disruption. If that person's identity gets stolen, that you would see that person doing the work, but it's not them. Or that person's actually doing the work because they could be a disgruntled employee. But the motivations are very different from the motivations on the external perspective. And the classic confidentiality, integrity, and availability is what is under attack for the purpose of getting access to the assets. So where does AI fit into all of this? So with all these common and developing approaches that we see, things like tricking people to click on engineered links or any sort of fake site or fake identities, what is very alarming is the rate at which artificial intelligence is being used to facilitate these attacks. And it's to the point where a human cannot keep up with it. It's gone past that. So what is happening now is that the artificial intelligence is used and used very effectively in the defense of these types of attacks. And this morning there was a news article posted on Tech Central, which shared that the average cyber attack in South Africa caused the 43 million rands worth of damage. The average attack in South Africa alone. So one attack causing 43 million worth of damage. So just think about that. So artificial intelligence is playing a huge role, and not only in the attack, but now mostly in the defense, and being very effective in that. Cyberbullying is one of the areas I just want to talk about to share with you. It's something that affects all of us in all avenues of life. And it is so prevalent that we don't even know that it's happening to us, and we don't even know that we are part of it. So when cyberbullying is happening to an individual, it seems like, yeah, this is just a little bit of harassment and maybe I can deal with it. But actually, no, it's a lot worse than that. And if you are present when that's happening, or you have visibility of it, or you're in a social group where it's happening, and you don't speak out saying that's wrong, don't do that, you are condoning it, you're part of it, you're supporting it. So please be aware of that. I won't go into all the areas and all the definitions, but that the presentation will be made available to you. You're welcome to Lynn to keep the recording, to go through this and share with people. But cyberbullying is a big thing, and it's to cause harm. Somebody wants to cause harm on somebody else. And they do that through messaging, using social media, typically social media, sometimes emails, but online forums are rife of bullying. And you could even say, most of us know Twitter. If you post something on Twitter and you get all of these people saying, well, how stupid you are to post that, that's a form of cyberbullying. It's no different. So be very careful of trying to find a definition of cyberbullying. If it makes you uncomfortable, causes you stress, it's a form of cyberbullying. And the impact it causes is quite severe, including anxiety, depression, and even self-harm in some cases. To avoid it, we educate ourselves, we encourage open communication, talk about it. Even if you have an open group amongst students and you encourage them to talk about cyberbullying, tell them about cyberbullying. Tell them what it is. Use this slide. and let them talk about it, and you'll be surprised what comes out of those discussions. Report it and block it is very key. And then create amongst the students a positive digital culture. That's what we're promoting, is to generate that positive digital culture. I'll move on to the next one. Internet addiction. It's something that's very difficult to understand, very difficult to identify with, and also more difficult to admit. So the perpetrators are ourselves. Every single one of us experiences at some point in our lives. We are bombarded with information from all avenues, and it's so difficult to pull back and say, hang on a minute, I need time out. We've often told ourselves that we need we've had too much screen time. We need a break. That's a sign that you are addicted to something. Hopefully it's not work, and hopefully it's something else, and it's something you're passionate about. But pick up those signs. Make sure that you understand them a little bit better. And we've all got access to unrestricted internet. Most of us have got access to unrestricted internet. In the workplace, it's a little bit more restricted. In universities, it's a bit more open than in the workplace. And in schools, it should be very restricted because of the nature of the crimes that are happening against our youth, not only in South Africa, but in the whole of the world. Mental health is a big issue as an impact. It makes people withdraw socially and just be excluded from a lot of activities in the real world, and be more focused in the physical world. How to avoid this? You set boundaries. There's a time for being on the internet and doing research and whatever you need to do, and being humorous and social with your friends on social media. There's a time for that, but there's also time to switch off. There's also time to get your hands in the mud and be earthed. Engage in offline activities, do a sport, and develop coping mechanisms. And those coping mechanisms could be setting those boundaries, but everybody's got their own view on what those coping mechanisms are. Discuss it in these groups, and you'll see some interesting things come up. And get support. If you feel you are addicted, get support. It's not difficult to break that habit. There are also professional organizations that can support you in terms of counseling, particularly on internet addiction. Sextortion is a scary one, because as humans, we are social. As humans, we want to interact with each other. We want that intimacy physically. We want it online, and we seek that. And the testament is the number of dating sites that there are. There's thousands of dating sites, and it's so easy to get access to them. And this is a scary thing for the youth going through school, and they have access to these types of dating sites. And some of them are unscrupulous. A lot of them are run by criminals and child traffickers, and all they want to do is to entice people to come into the site, build that sort of relationship, and then try and extort them, either sharing sexual content or any other inappropriate content, and then tell them that, well, hang on a minute, if you don't give me money, I'm going to share this information with parents and family or community or even your work. And people start paying ransom for that. And then their life goes downhill. They run out of money, they run out of self-esteem, and it's just a destructive process. How to avoid that? Don't pay. Report it. Immediately report it. Keep all the evidence that you have, even though it might be shameful for you. If you follow down the path of continuously paying these criminals, then you're actually going to be worse off than you were if you were exposed, you were ashamed because you were exposed, and then your life can move on. If you continue down the route of paying them, it's going to be more destructive to your life. Content risks, inappropriate content, and that could be of a sexual nature, it could be of a more devious nature, it could be criminal, it could be racism, it could be anything. The point is, if you get exposed to inappropriate content, you get conditioned to it, and you see it, the more you see it, the more conditioned you get, the more you want to explore more. So when you see it for the first time, don't think it's okay. You must never think it's okay. You should report it. And you should make sure that that site is blocked. Because if it's available, especially in the context of schoolgoers, learners, and educational institutions, people are very curious and they want to learn more. So once you see it, you should block it immediately. So be very, very aware of that. And that has the same impacts of the other scams that I showed in terms of the extortion capabilities, stealing identities, and shaming people. It's just a very nasty space and should be controlled. So please be aware of that. Educate your users on what is appropriate, what is not appropriate, and how to behave if they do come across inappropriate material. And sometimes people store inappropriate material on your own systems and you don't even know about it. That's even more scary. So please be aware of that. It is real. It's happening all around us. Recruitment scams, I felt, was a very appropriate topic. From school, we go to university. From school, we go find work. There are very unscrupulous people out there who set up fake recruitment sites. And they lure young people to come and they do interviews with them for certain jobs. That develop that trust relationship. And then they use that information. Now they've got their voice recorded, they've got their video recorded, they've got all their details from their CV. They can actually steal their identity and commit identity fraud. And that can go many, many places of darkness, which is very undesirable for anybody's identity. So when you are exposed and you are in that early stages of looking for a job, please make sure that you know the recruiter. Double check. Check with people that you know, that they are a credible recruiter. Check their contact information. Make sure it lines up. If their website has got a verifiable digital signature. And never, ever fall for the trap of, if you pay me 200 Rand now, I'll push you up to first in the priority queue for the job. No, don't do it. That's a scam. That's the first sign that that is a scam. And trust your instincts, because we've all had lots of exposure to the internet and we've read a lot about the internet. And by now we should know. Most of the time, if it smells dodgy, if it looks dodgy, it's dodgy. So please use your instincts. So our end goal is to protect our future leaders. And that is what you guys are preparing our future leaders for, the world out there. And that world out there includes the digital world. So we are protecting the future leaders by equipping them with knowledge and skills to navigate through the digital world in a safe manner and in a responsible manner where we can all enjoy it safely. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just sharing with you. Wolfpack has an initiative which is called Alert Africa. And please record the site. If you just search on Alert Africa, the initiative is pro bono, so we don't get any revenue out of it. We help people who are victims of cybercrime. The target is against individuals, communities, and small companies. And not big companies, because then they can pay. But for communities, individuals, we're very, very happy to support in terms of, if that person has been a victim of cybercrime, they can register the cybercrime on Alert Africa. We will appoint for them a security analyst, which will cleanse their digital environment, help them collect the evidence so that they can eventually give that evidence to a digital officer who can investigate the cybercrime. We won't do the investigation. We will just help with the forensic side of collecting the evidence and packaging it ready for the digital officer. And we also provide talks similar to this around cyber crimes, what people should look out online for, how to protect themselves. We do this for schools, and it's an initiative that we are giving back to the communities in the same way that that you as teachers are giving your time and doing your jobs, teaching children. We are as passionate about that in enabling people to have a safe digital experience.